Hello and welcome to continued Channel 17 town meeting television coverage of the candidates, budgets, and ballot items that you, the voters, will see on your ballot this upcoming March 6, 2018. This is a live call-in show, so please feel free to call us tonight if you're watching at 802-862-3966. Thank you very much. In this forum, we've brought together constituents from both sides of an issue facing Burlington voters. This is an advisory referendum on the basing of the Vermont Air Guard F-35s at the Burlington International Airport. And I'm going to take a moment to read that. That's Burlington ballot item number 6, and it reads, "Shall we, the voters of the city of Burlington, as part of our strong support for the men and women of the Vermont National Guard, and especially their mission to, quote, protect the citizens of Vermont, unquote, advise the City Council to 1, request the cancellation of the planned basing of the F-35 at Burlington International Airport, and 2, request instead low noise level equipment with a proven high safety record appropriate for a densely populated area." I'm going to repeat that this is an advisory referendum. If it is voted up or down, it has no direct consequence. It merely tells the mayor and the city council the general direction of city opinion based on the voters who participate. With us here tonight for in favor of this advisory referendum, I have to my left Roseanne Greco. She's a retired Air Force colonel. She's a current resident of South Burlington, and she is also the former chair of the South Burlington City Council. Welcome.
Thank you.
Also to my left is James Lease. He's a patent lawyer. He's a resident of South Burlington, and he has helped petition to get this ballot item in front of the voters of Burlington. Opposing the referendum, on my right, we have Bill Kehoe. He's a retired lieutenant colonel of the Army Guard. He has spent 8 years serving in the Vermont legislature and 16 for the city of Burlington, and he is also a current city of Burlington resident.
Correct.
Welcome. And along with Bill, we have Nicole Citro. She is the creator of the green ribbons for the F-35s, and she is a resident of Essex Junction. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm going to give you each a minute now to take some time and tell us your position and why this issue is important to you.
Okay.
So let's start with Roseanne, and then we'll go to Bill, and then we'll go to James, and then we'll go to Nicole. Okay?
Sounds good. Okay.
All right.
So it's important to thousands of people who live in the Burlington area. If the F-35 is based here, it'll be here for the next 30 to 50 years. So this is a very important decision. The Air Force, when they wrote their environmental impact statement, laid out the ramifications of the basing, and many of those were detrimental to our area. Specifically, they have the noise of the F-35 can harm the health of adults, especially children, and also their cognitive development. It also has economic consequences. Studies have shown that property values in this kind of noise zone decrease. And there are other negative impacts for the basing. So because of the negative impact, it's a very important decision. We also know that the Air Force has made it very clear that the F-35 is not the only mission for the Air National Guard. If it doesn't come here, they've said there are plenty of other missions, flying aircraft that they could have for a mission. And my time is up.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Kehoe.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this information with this group of people. Really appreciate it. Get the information out to the voters. And you got to vote, please. You got to vote. If you haven't voted already, make sure you vote by Tuesday. I'm opposing this issue because of the terminology, and I'll get into that later. But the F-35 is coming to Burlington, and I think that this item on the ballot is sort of a yardstick as to how the people of Burlington think about the Guard. But I'll get into it. I'm taking some exception to the way the ballot item is worded, and I know the City Council did as well. They wrestled with this item for about an hour, but I'll get to that shortly.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Lease.
So I think that the best way to support the Vermont National Guard is to support a yes vote on this ballot item, because the mission of the Vermont National Guard is to protect the citizens of Vermont. You'll see that on the website of the Vermont National Guard. And you can't protect thousands of families by harming them. The Air Force did a very careful study, spent years on it, and came up with the conclusion that 3,000 homes are going to be in a noise danger zone, and it's going to be harmful for children and adults, as Roseanne pointed out. So the best way to support the members of the Guard is to support their mission, which is to protect the citizens of Vermont, and that means canceling the F-35.
Thank you very much. And last, Nicole, would you like to share with us?
6 years ago, I tied up a green ribbon on my front porch because I felt that the silent majority of the supporters of the Vermont Air National Guard and the supporters of the new F-35 were not being heard. So I wanted to give them an avenue in which to do that. There were many public forums that people participated in, but then we also had 2 comment periods during the EIS process. One in which the supporters produced 18,000 signatures in support of the F-35, and then in the second comment period, there were 10,000 postcards in support. So we've already seen in the past significant support for this new jet for the Air Guard. But I'm here because I feel that this ballot item is deceitful and it's disingenuous. And I feel that if you truly support the Vermont Air National Guard, then you will vote no on question 6. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all for your participation, excuse me. Thank you all for your participation again and for being here. And I would like to remind viewers that this is a call-in show and we will take your calls. 802-862-3966. We're going to go back and forth. I'm going to ask each side to share with us their thoughts. And the first is to the proponents. How did this referendum come about? How did it come to be on the ballot? Specifically, why now? And why is it important that voters of Burlington weigh in on this?
Can we start?
Okay, so this is on the ballot as a result of thousands of signatures being gathered on petitions these last 2 or 3 months to get it on the ballot. And the petitioning was initiated so that the voters of Burlington could weigh in on the subject. Until now, it's been a decision made for the people instead of by the people. And so the purpose of the petition is to give the voters a chance as an electorate to tell the elected representatives how they feel. This goes right back to 1777 when our state was founded, where our country, actually the Republic of Vermont, was founded. The idea that power belongs to the people and that the elected officials are the servants of the people. And so, you know, Mayor Weinberger has made a very strong point that he's put 17 issues to the voters on the ballot at town meeting in the last 6 years. Well, this is one issue, this crucial issue for health and safety of thousands of families all around the airport has not been put to the voters by the mayor and the city council. So we went to the voters and collected signatures to get it on the ballot, and that's how it got.
So you don't.
Anything to add, Roseanne? Just
Sorry.
You have a little more time in that 2 minutes.
Well, I agree with what Jimmy said. The other thing is that this is a very important decision. And it's one that should not be taken lightly. And as Jimmy said, it was made from, in fact, people were supporting it before they even read the information about it. The information has been out now for 6 years. It's pretty clear that this aircraft is going to cause a lot of harm to a lot of people here. It's also very clear there are alternatives. So we can support the Guard by getting them another aircraft to fly that won't hurt anybody. That's doable. It's been done in other states. It's even been done after planes have arrived at their basing. So we have a choice. We have a better choice that supports the Guard as well as the people. It's not this weapon system or nothing. It's this weapon system or another military aircraft that wouldn't have the noise that causes the problems the F-35 does.
Thank you very much.
I disagree. You're speculating. There is no alternative mission for the Guard. The F-35 is the plane that the Air Force awarded us. And obviously by saying that you're putting it to the voters for the first time, then you're discounting all those comments that came in during the EIS comment period. That's when the public was being heard, because it's not up to the city of Burlington, it was up to the Air Force. And the EIS process was very thorough and very transparent. And when they asked the public for their opinion, they gave their opinion. So now you're trying to say that that doesn't matter. Well, that did matter. And that was the information that the Air Force made their decision on. And, you know, as I said, you're speculating. The Adjutant General has said specifically there is no alternate mission for the Air Guard. It's clear as that.
All right.
Can
thank
I
you very
respond back
much.
after?
Please, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not speculating, Nicole. I'm just using the words that the Air Force has said. In the EIS, which I have here and I can show you afterwards, and in court documents that I brought, the Air Force says specifically the Guard never needed the F-35 to continue to have a flying mission. And they
Past
said,
tense.
and they said, no, this
Past
is,
tense.
this was just August of 2016. They said, if the F-35 doesn't come here, the quote is, there are any number of alternative aircraft the Guard can fly. The judge, Crawford, ruled against us for that reason because we used your argument. We said, you never told us, Air Force, that there would be no other aircraft here if the F-35 doesn't come. And the Air Force says, yes, we did tell you. We told you 4 times. Judge Crawford said, yes, they did tell you. They told you there will always be a flying mission for the F-35. These are not my words. These are words from the Air Force, and these are words from a federal judge.
Prior to the basing decision.
All right.
No, this was after, 2016.
Up until the basing
Thank
decision.
you very much. So we're going to we'll get into more, but I'm going to turn to you all for a question with, do you think this should be on the ballot at all? And what impact do you think the Burlington voters should have on the basing, on the decision about whether to base the F-35s at the Burlington airport?
Well, you know, I think that the democratic process is a great one. That's exactly what our country provides us, is if there are citizens that have concerns, that if they take those concerns to their fellow voters and they get 5% of the voting public to agree with them, that this is something that they can bring to their city council, city government, and have it put on the ballot. The thing is that in this case, the decision has already been made. The Air Force is not going to change its decision. And the way that the wording of the ballot item was written was very deceitful. It was very disingenuous because of the fact that showing support for the Guard is not saying we're taking away your future. Please vote on taking away the livelihood of 1,100 people.
Bill, do you have some thoughts on whether this should be on the ballot?
Yes, my thoughts are this. Certainly the right of petition is the right of the citizenry to request the city council to put this item on the ballot. And the council voted to do that. But they had a lot of discussion. This is the terminology, and if you look at the boldface type, it is in support of the Guard. Certainly, I mean, something like, if that were the only item on the ballot, then you would get almost 95% support. But look at the curveball that was thrown. The curveball says that request the cancellation of the planned basing of the F-35 at the airport. That's not consistent with what the National Guard wants. The Guardsmen want and support and will man and will will activate and the F-35 when it comes next October. And the second part of the ballot, and then again, this is advisory, has no impact on anything except city council and the mayor. Second part says request instead low noise level equipment with a proven high safety record appropriate for a densely populated area. You know the item 2 reminds me of? A glider. Would that work? I don't think so.
Thank you.
But certainly, okay, all right, I'm stifled.
So we did hear on this side, you have about a minute to respond. We did hear James Lees from you about the wording on the ballot item. Roseanne, do you want to weigh in on that about the
Yeah.
wording on the ballot item?
Of course. The Guard is not a military plane. The Guard are women and men who serve our state and our country. They are not equivalent to the aircraft we're talking about. There are 24 other Air Guard units in the United States that fly military aircraft that are compatible with areas such as ours, a residential area. Most of them have to do with transport or cargo, C-130s, C-17s, right? So the fact that we have a fighter bomber here and another fighter bomber coming that will increase the noise 4 times, based on what the Air Force said, and will impact the population, doesn't mean that that's a given. There are 2 Air Guard units just in the past few years that swapped from fighter bombers to cargo aircraft. Why? Because the noise was destroying their community and they went to a quieter aircraft. So the Air Force, when they made their ruling, oh, okay, I'll end there.
All right, great. So thanks for calling. It looks like we do have a call, so we're going to leave our prepared questions and move on to that.
Yes.
Welcome. You're on live at 5:25 with questions for the folks on the F-35.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Roseanne had mentioned that there are a lot of people would be harmed. I'm particularly interested in the environmental impacts of the aircraft, either with or without a crash incident.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Without the what?
With or
Either with-
without a crash incident.
Oh, a crash.
So I'm going to go ahead and because that was directed at you folks.
Okay.
If you can give a minute to that answer, and then you guys will have a chance
Well,
also to weigh in.
the Air Force in the EIS said the safety record of the F-35 at the time it was written was not established because it had not flown very much. So they estimated the safety of the F-35 to be most equivalent to the F-22. The F-22 is the most dangerous aircraft right now that the Air Force is flying. It is the aircraft that Air Guard pilots refused to fly because it was killing them. They went on 60 Minutes to complain about it. So when I read that that's how safe the Air Force expected the F-35 to be, that's very concerning. Then we learned that our runway barely meets the minimum length for an F-35 on takeoff. Why is that important? Because crashes, according to the Air Force and according to statistics, happen most often on takeoff and landing. When you don't have a very long runway, it gives a pilot fewer options if a flight emergency happens. It happened already at Eglin Air Force Base. The F-35 caught fire on takeoff. The pilot luckily was able to escape the F-35 because he was able to stop it in time. Eglin has a 10,000-foot runway. We have a little bit over 8,000 feet. So that increases the danger of this weapon system, which is brand new, never been operationally deployed before.
The F-35 has actually had hundreds of thousands of flying hours now, and it is rated as the safest airframe right now. And I understand you'll cherry pick all your information about what it is that's going to prove your point. But the fact is that you're speculating. The Air Force is in the know.
Nope.
The Air Force absolutely.
I
Roseanne,
totally agree. They are.
The Air Force absolutely knows more than you do, and the Adjutant General knows more than you do. And they're bringing this jet here because it's been fully vetted, and it is the choice for the Vermont Air National Guard. We are very proud that the Vermont Air National Guard, the first Guard base in the nation, has been chosen to award this jet.
When they selected Burlington as the site for the F-35, they looked at a number of issues. One was the ability of our maintenance crews already in the Vermont Air Guard. They're outstanding, and the Air Force evaluated their skill level. Today, there are Air Guardsmen out training to maintain F-35s. That money is already invested in their training. The Air Guard currently has up to $15 million of construction work at the airport for runways and adapting the hangars. So that money is invested in people. That money is invested in construction for the arrival of the F-35 next
Thank you very much.
September.
Thanks.
I'd just like to add something.
30 seconds.
Okay, so on the Adjutant General, on February 9th, he changed the position of the Vermont National
didn't.
Guard when he said that there's no other mission being planned. So he added that qualification. He recognized.
It's not a qualification.
Excuse me.
You're turning his
Can I
words.
get
30
extra
seconds.
time?
No, you just keep going.
So the Adjutant General qualified the statement. Now, we do have the option of getting other equipment.
No
In fact,
options.
Okay,
No
ready.
options.
In fact, the Air Force has
No options.
repeatedly offered alternate equipment.
No.
There's a conflict between your statements and the Air Force.
I'm saying the same thing that the Adjutant General said. There is no alternative mission for the F-35.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Let's take the next call. What's coming in? Hi, welcome to Live at 525. This is the item on the F-35 ballot referendum in Burlington.
Yes, my name is Dale Tillotson. Thank you for taking my call.
Welcome, Dale.
Hi, Dale.
Thanks, former Council President Keogh, for bringing up all the facts on the issue here. It's rather discouraging when you have to go to a ballot booth and vote on something that is worded in a trickery way.
Can you give us a question, Dale?
Yes.
Thanks.
We're taking questions
We're
and
taking
not comments?
we're gonna do questions. If you or a brief comment, please.
I was under the understanding that comments were asked for, not just questions. So I guess my question then would be, why would the proponents of this ballot item reduce themselves to trickery in the face of the voters in order to get this put forth? And then I will add another comment that this is simply an advisory question, and it's just like an enema. It's non-binding. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
So I hear that. So I hear in that question, I hear that we have some, and we actually get into this. We have some pretty complicated, differing opinions on what is going on. So let's jump right to that question. Seems like a pretty complicated issue. Some say the F-35s are doomed to fail from the outset. Some say massive property tax value decreases, home losses in neighboring towns. There's various claims on noise levels, numbers of flight takeoff, viability of the Vermont Air Guard. Top 3 things you think people need to know before they go to vote on this ballot item in March. And then I want to give you each 2 minutes to respond to this. And then we're going to take a question that's coming in as well. All right? So let's
Well,
go.
first of all, I think the voters have to really know what they're voting for. They cannot take this terminology and think that supporting the Guard if they vote yes. If they truly support the Guard, they'll vote no on this ballot item. And because of its deception, let me have this.
So can we move? We've established that we have a difference of opinion about whether this is a deceptive
Okay.
item or not. Can we get into the top 3 things you want people to know when they walk in?
I want people to know that they have to know what they're voting for and what
Yeah.
the ballot says.
Yeah.
And they vote what they really, if they support the Guard, they'll vote no.
Yeah.
That's my whole message
Okay.
right there.
Great. And do you have?
Yes, that, a vote of no is the only way that you're showing true support for the Air Guard, because there is no alternative mission. That they can speculate all they want. The Adjutant General has said no alternate mission. This is the safest aircraft in the skies right now as far as military jets are concerned, and the noise level that they keep claiming is not. It's actually going to be quieter in F-16 than in a lot of areas of this state. So, yeah. Again, vote no on question 6 if you truly support the Air Guard.
Okay, great. So
So
we've
what?
got a couple minutes now. Also, top 3 issues
All
when
right,
we
top
get into
3.
this complicated differences of opinion that people have.
So what I would like the voters to do is to vote on the facts. Nicole has said a number of times speculation. This is not speculation. It's in the environmental impact statement. If they want to know the page references that say the F-35 is 4 times louder, it's in here. They can go to the website. I've cited the pages in here. If they want to know the other aircraft that the Air Force said the Air Guard could fly, that's in the legal documents that are also on our website. So it's not speculation, it's fact. The United States Air Force, I served 30 years on active duty in the Air Force. They own the aircraft. They set the mission for the Air Guard. They give the Guard the aircraft. The Air Force says there are other missions the Air Guard could fly. The Air Force says, Nicole, I'll show you this afterwards. You can
Past
read
tense. Past tense.
it. I don't, what you mean by past tense?
Can we wait? Give them a minute.
all
We'll
right.
do a 30-second.
The Air Force said it in the EIS. The Air Force said it in court documents as most recent as last year, that there are other aircraft. If the F-35 doesn't come here, there are other aircraft the Air Guard could fly. They said specifically, the Air Guard will always have a flying mission, not speculation, Air Force words in court documents. So what I'd like the voters to do is look at the court documents. I'm not speculating. I'm giving you page references so you can read it yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. Read it. Read what the Air Force said. Read what Judge Crawford said. They said it 4 or 5 times.
Give me 20 seconds to add something to that.
Sorry,
I'd
Jenny.
20
just like
seconds.
to add that
Sorry.
Yep.
Burlington has already voted in 2005 on the similar wording. We had a resolution on the ballot that said the voters of Burlington strongly support the members of the armed forces in Iraq and believe the best way to support them is to bring them home now. This resolution builds on that adopted resolution that was adopted with 65.2% of the voters in Burlington.
Thank you.
And it
30
won in every
seconds.
ward in the city.
I know that you truly believe what it is that you read, but it is past tense. All that was about what was optional to the Air Guard up until the basing decision. Now that the basing decision has been made, we can't sit there and say, oh, thanks, but no, we're going to take another jet. That's not on the table. We don't get to cherry pick. It isn't done a la carte. It's a matter of once the EIS process is complete and the Air Force made the decision that we're going to receive the jet, if we pass on the F-35, we get nothing. It's done, lights out.
So that's our 30-second rebuttal. We have 2 calls on the phone, and I'm going to do something here to our director that we probably haven't done in a while. We're going to let this go over about 15 minutes. So you may lose us on the live channel feed, but you can tune into our live YouTube feed, and then this will be available in our continuing repeats. Is everybody okay with that?
Sure,
All right.
yeah.
So call from our first caller there. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Do you have a question for our candidates on the F-35 ballot item on the Burlington ballot?
Yeah, I'm just tuning in, and I don't know if this has been covered yet, but I'm curious to know about how the Guard's mission, as I understand it, is to protect Vermonters, and I'm not really understanding how making 75% of Winooski unlivable and damaging the health of children fits into that mission.
All right.
And I guess that question could really go to anyone.
Okay, great. So I guess that gets into some of the stuff that's gone on. Again, those complicated issues where there are a difference of opinions. And there have been votes, or officials have taken stands in the city of Winooski and in the city of South Burlington. And I'm wondering if both sides would give about 2 minutes to talk about what you feel about or think about the impact, and specifically how those cities have weighed in on this.
Nicole's good.
Yeah.
And again, I want to remind everybody that this is about the F-35s on the ballot issue.
Yeah.
It's an advisory, yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
and as an advisory referendum, not so much about who supports the Guard more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is that this was already posed to the Burlington City Council 4 years ago. And it was based on the fact that the council voted to support the F-35. That was in part what the Air Force made their decision on. The South Burlington City Council has weighed in that they support the F-35. And the city of Winooski, they tried to sue the government and they lost. So what we're seeing is a try and change at the last minute of a decision that's already been made. Now, Winooski actually is an example of how the city actually is thriving, even though they are well aware of the fact that the F-35 is coming. And the grand list of the city that is lowering the property tax, it's thriving. There has been more construction in the last 5 years in that city. And high-rise apartments with condos that are going at top price, and they're fully aware of the F-35 coming. So, again, the voters need to know that this is a decision that the councils have already weighed in on, and that to have this on the ballot, that supporting the F-35, supporting the Guard, is a vote no on question 6.
Thank you.
Nicole has mentioned before that there was a public process whereby regular citizens could convey their wishes to the Air Force. And the Air Force produced those comments. I have them, thousands of pages of comments. And 65% of the comments they received were against the basing. 35 were for.
No.
Yes.
Just wait a minute, we'll have some time.
This is, and you asked something, Megan, that I think is important. You asked for our opinions, and we have different opinions. What I have been saying is not my opinion. It's the words from the Air Force. I have Air Force documents, I have court documents. It's not an opinion. If Nicole says that there is no other mission and the Guard will close, well, that directly contradicts what the United States Air Force said in court. So show me the proof. I have the documents. The judge ruled, basically using the words of the Air Force, saying, yes, Air Force, you told us if the F-35 doesn't come here, the Air Guard will continue to have a flying mission like they have for the last few decades. So I have the documentation. It's not an opinion. It's the fact. It's a fact that it's 4 times louder. The Air Force said that. It's a fact that there are other missions. The Air Force said that. It's a fact that other places the military has reversed basing decisions. That's a fact. I can prove all that in documents. What we hear from other folks is opinions unsubstantiated by facts. If you can show me your documents, I brought mine to show
20
you.
seconds, just remembering about the Winooski and South Burlington.
So 75% of Winooski, according to the Air Force, is going to be in an area that the federal government deems unsuitable for residential use. That comes to over 5,000 people. The Air Force said that. The federal government said that. When you put that many people in that kind of situation, that aircraft should not be here, especially when there are alternatives that will not put anyone in that unsuitable for residential use area.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds.
You understand the documents as your opinion, as you view them. Whenever you say that there was an alternate mission, you said it yourself, the word said. It's past tense. Up until the basing decision, there may have been other missions.
This was after the basing decision.
Now that the decision
Nicole,
has been made,
this is 3 years after the
we
basing decision.
don't have an alternate mission.
All right, great. So we have some documents here that unfortunately you can't read, but these folks have studied them and looked at them, and hopefully you're getting a chance to hear from them. We're going to hear, yes.
We've had the Air Force held hearings from 2009 to 2013.
Yeah.
All this information has been in the EIS statement, and record of decision is there. The F-35s are coming. Welcome them next October. Right. They're coming.
One of the great things about
Give me 10 seconds.
One of the great things about Vermont is that the founders of our state made the citizens the rulers and the elected representatives the servants. That's in Article 6 of the Constitution. So this is why putting the matter to a vote is putting it to the rulers, not to the people who've been making decisions all along that are adverse to the interests
We're going to get
of
to that in a
thousands
little
of
more
families.
detail. at
Jimmy,
the end.
nothing's going to change.
Ready, here we are. Welcome, caller. You are on Live at 525, and this is a program on the F-35s as an advisory referendum on the ballot March 6, 2018. Do you have a question?
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi. So I'm interested in knowing what the consequences of a crash would be, specifically what the planes are made of and what would happen if they burn.
Thank you very much.
The precautionary principle has to be used with a threat of this magnitude. So please would somebody go through that.
Great, thanks. Let's have 1 minute on this side. Planes, what are they made of, and the issue of the crash and burn possibility.
Okay, so we have the Burlington International Airport that the Air Guard shares the runway with. The military jets comprise 6% of the aircraft travel in and out of this airport. So again, harkening back to the F-35 is the safest aircraft in the military right now. The F-16, the Vermont Air Guard, the safest in the country because of our excellent maintainers. But we also have commercial jets that fly in and out of here, that their rate of accident is much, much higher than we would ever think to see with a military jet. Now, of course, none of us ever want to see anything crash at Burlington International Airport. But when you look at the danger, you look at the toxicity levels, you look at a fully loaded FedEx plane, the composite materials that are in that jet and everything that there could be in their cargo. The risk is greater with other airplanes coming in and out of this airport than the F-35 will ever produce to our residents.
Thank you. And
Okay, so actually everything Nicole said is wrong. The military jet crash rate is at least 10 times higher than that of commercial jets, much, much higher. However, the F-16 crash rate has gone down significantly. This is the military jet that's based at the airport now, over time. When it first got here in 1986, it had the fleet of F-16s had a crash rate triple what the F-16 crash rate is now. So as they've had experience with crashes, these planes improve. The F-16 has had 350 crashes in its 30-year lifetime, but it had 77 crashes before it was brought to Vermont. It had 1 million flight hours before it got to Vermont in 1986. The F-35 is the A version that we're going to get is going to have fewer than 100,000, less than 1/10. So it's going to have much less learning, much less experience, much less flight hours. We're going to have a much more dangerous plane. But as Roseanne pointed out, and Nicole actually alluded to, the plane is made of a military composite material that burns in a crash. So the crash consequences are going to be even worse, with toxic chemicals, particulates, and fibers. Thousands of pounds of these military composites are going to burn, releasing this into the atmosphere. This is something that wouldn't happen with the F-16 because it's got an aluminum body.
thank you. Oh, we had one more call, but we're lost. 30 seconds back and forth. Go ahead.
Everything is made up of composite materials these days. The military doesn't have a super secret composite material.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. And the thing is,
Okay.
and the thing is that our Vermont Air Guard Fire and Rescue team are second to none in how they have been trained, and they know exactly what they're dealing with when it comes to any type of military material. But again, because you have FedEx and commercial, everything that's included in those planes are no less.
Thank you.
So the Air Force
seconds.
actually, someone asked the question of the safety aspect of the F-35, and the Air Force used the comparison of a Mustang and a school bus to try to compare fighter bombers with commercial aircraft.
Why?
Vast amount of difference. That's in the comments, sort of interesting to read, right? But the Air Force and the military, when they build military aircraft, they use a different kind of composite material. In addition to that, however, the F-35 has a chemical stealth coating that is classified. We do know, because we witnessed this, is that when that burns, that can kill people, and it has at Area 51.
Great. Thank you.
Area
So
51.
it seems like a big part of this is, again, this pretty complicated issue of
Complicated,
varying facts and whether this is a referendum on the Guard or a referendum on the F-35s. You know, finally, I think when the voters go, and again, this is an advisory referendum, and it's going to, signal to the City Council the will of the folks that vote as they vote. What do you hope from the mayor and the City Council at that point? So the current mayor stated, unequivocal support for the F-35s coming to the airport. Candidate Karina Driscoll has stated that she will move with the will of the people, and candidate Infinite Coolclosure has said that he opposes the F-35s. So depending on the vote, what are you hoping the City Council and the mayor will do? And if we can just have a minute from each side and then a back and forth, and then we'll have some closing statements.
I can do it in 15 seconds.
Great.
Listen to the people. We are a democracy, and go with what the majority of the individuals
But more
that vote.
specifically, what would they, like, how would they proceed?
Communicate, if the people vote that they do not want the F-35 here, but rather would want another aircraft, then it would behoove, I think it's incumbent on the City Council and the Mayor to communicate that to the Air Force.
Jimmy, do you want to add?
Okay, so I think the Air Force
30
won't
seconds.
wait for anyone to ask them. When they see the vote, they're going to replace the F-35 with another mission. The Air Force was pressured to bring the F-35 here in the first place. We know that because in the lawsuit we have discovery, and the documents that we got in discovery showed that the Air Force was pressured by Senator Leahy. So we know that this is a pressured decision. When the people of Burlington vote yes on ballot item 6 to cancel the F-35, I think all of the political leaders in the state and the Air Force will accept the will of the people.
I hope the voters don't get fooled by this. They were tricked. They would be tricked by the language because it wraps it up in a support that I think is disingenuous. And then it talks about things that is not in the control, as much as we absolutely, if we honor the fact that we are given in this democracy a voice.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we've already been given a voice within the EIS comment period. And I don't believe that voters that truly support the Guard and support the F-35, they don't want another mission. They want the F-35. So
Kehoe?
voting no will do that.
When the results of this election are tallied, a letter will go to the Secretary of the Air Force, and the Secretary of the Air Force will accept it and place it on file. The F-35s are coming.
Great. So closing comments. Again, we'll go back and forth. We'll go in reverse order. I think we started with Roseanne and went to Bill Kehoe and then went to James Lease and Nicole. So we'll start with Bill Kehoe and we'll do that all backwards.
First of all, vote for on March 6th
He's
or
going to say it.
before.
Yep.
Vote no on the item because the item is deceptive. And if you really want to support the Guard, you're going to vote no because the F-35 is coming to the benefit of the national defense system and as a defense for our country. Vote no.
Less than a minute. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, rather than use my words, I think what I'll do is read what the Air Force said, since we've had a back and forth about did they say it or didn't.
Okay.
So this is from March 13th, 2016, as part of court documents. The Air Force said, inform the public that if Burlington was not selected, the base's current mission would continue. Then they said, on March the 7th, 2016, many F-16s are being retrofitted to extend their service life. Integrating the air is leading to a massive redistribution of F-16s throughout the fleet, including the National Guard and Reserves. Had the Air Force not decided to base the F-35A at Burlington, the present F-16s could well have been replaced by other F-16s. And finally, Judge Crawford, in his ruling on August the 10th, 2016, said, there is no indication in the record that defendant, that's the Air Force, has decided to close the Vermont Air Guard base if the F-35 does not arrive. The record shows the opposite. Fighter planes of one description or another will continue to be based at the Vermont Air National Guard, and that's on page 34.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to add that
We're going to go back to
Nicole.
and then you're going to actually have the last word. So.
Well, I think that this is great. As much as we disagree and as much as we're going to go back and forth about what you think and what I think when reading the same material, it's that freedoms that the Air Guard is protecting. They're enabling us to be a nation that can voice our opinion without any ridicule or adverse reaction from the government. But again, the Vermont Adjutant General is speaking on behalf of the Air Guard. He is speaking on behalf of the Air Force. There is no alternate mission for the Air Guard. And by voting no on item number 6, you are reinforcing your true support for the Air Guard, and we will be welcoming them into our airspace come next year.
Thank you very much.
okay,
And
so
Mr. Lease?
supporting equipment is one thing. Supporting men and women is another. And the best way to support the men and women is to get them equipment that's compatible with their location in a densely populated area so that they don't harm thousands of families, especially the children, whose cognitive development will be impaired by the extreme noise of the F-35, which, as Roseanne pointed out, and the Air Force makes clear in the environmental impact statement. They did the measurements. They made the, they wrote it up in their document. It's going to be more than 4 times louder than the F-35. I think we have to, than the F-16. I think we have to respect the voters, that they can read the resolution carefully. They understand that the best way to support our men and women in the Guard is to give them the right kind of equipment and not give them inappropriate equipment for where they're located. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And I would have to agree, a lively and friendly conversation.
We're going to subscribe to Netflix.
Nobody hit anybody. That was
This
good. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
This is going to be on
So,
Netflix.
Thank you all for watching. And don't forget to vote March 6, 2018. And in Burlington, we also have walk-in. If you're not registered, walk right into your poll. And you can register on the same day to vote, or you can go today, tomorrow, and register downtown at City Hall early. Thank you all again for being here, and thank you for watching
Thank you.
Channel 17,
Thank
Top
you.
Rated Television.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.